Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So it's so good to see all of you and to be here again this year. I am honored to be able to speak to you this morning. If anything I say encourages you or inspires you to seek God more, praise God. He is our source of all things. After the seminar, I'll open it up for discussion and comments. My topic, as you see, is servant leadership. I was intrigued by Robert Greenleaf's essay, The Servant as Leader, written in 1970, where he coined the term servant leadership. According to Mr. Greenleaf, the first and most important choice a leader makes is to serve, without which one's capacity to lead is severely limited. He also believed that a good society has to be dominated by the servant idea. The servant leadership concept has had a deep and lasting influence over the past few decades on many modern leadership ideas and practices. The concept brought to awareness by Mr. Greenleaf has been around for a very long time. It's a principle Yeshua spoke of when he walked with his disciples. He shows us a beautiful example of servant leadership in John 13, 12 through 17. John 13, 12 through 17. When he, Yeshua, had washed their feet and taken his garments and resumed his place, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them." Luke 22, 25 through 27. Luke 22, 25 through 27. And Yeshua said unto them, "The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. But you shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he that is chief as he that does serve. For whether is greater, he that sitteth at meat, or he that serveth? Is it not he that sitteth at meat? But I am among you as he that serveth." Matthew 23, 11. Matthew 23, 11. He who is greatest among you shall be your servant. The leadership team hosting this warm and inviting festival site are servant leaders. Michael said to us who were here last year and again this year, quote, "We are here to wash your feet," unquote. They all have a heart for serving others. A servant, by definition, is one who is privately employed to perform domestic services, or one who is publicly employed to perform services for a government, like a civil servant. A third definition is one who expresses submission, recognizance, or debt to another. A leader is generally in the role of coach, guide, and inspires others. A leader is someone who can see how things can be improved and who rallies people to move toward that better vision. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. True leaders genuinely care about others and have a desire to serve. They consider it a high honor and responsibility to serve those they are privileged to lead. Normally, I think of a leader in a formal position of leadership which can last a long time. I want us to take a look at servant leadership in a slightly different light. Let's look at servant leadership where someone leads a group for a shorter amount of time in ways we don't normally think of as leadership. This broader definition may give us a different perspective. Let's look at the definition of the word influence and what part it plays in leadership. Influence is defined as the capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something. It's the ability to persuade someone to think or act in the way we want. So are we supposed to influence others? Let's go to Matthew 5:14 through 16. Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Nor do men light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but on a stand, so it gives light to all in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. The ability to influence others is an essential part of leadership. I feel when we are able to influence other people, we are in a type of leadership role during that period. Leadership can last for different periods of time. Someone who speaks in front of a group is in a position of influence. When a presentation or study is interactive during or at the end, and everyone is allowed to comment, we are all influencing each other. What about the people in our lives we try to influence for the better? We talk to others about God. Acts 1, verse 8. Acts 1, verse 8. But you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. How often do we influence others? I believe we influence others much more than we realize. Even in our absence, people think about what we said or did, and we are having a positive or negative impact on them. We are admonished to always let our light shine by following Yeshua's example. Have you ever had anyone tell you that something you said or did changed something they were doing for the better? Maybe you were very surprised, unaware of what that person saw you do or heard you say that changed them. A lady in a church I attended half a lifetime ago told me one day that she watched me. I was somewhat shocked. She didn't elaborate on how it affected her, but it seemed positive. I was involved in different activities the church did, totally unaware of someone consciously watching my actions. It was also very revealing as a parent, as my children began imitating my words and actions. It reminds me of the song, I want to be like you, God, because my child wants to be like me. Several years ago, I read the book, The Vision Board by Joyce Schwartz. I was inspired by one particular story of a family who created a vision wall in their home to inspire them to work toward a life-changing goal they wanted to accomplish as a family. I decided to create my own vision wall in an extra bedroom. It is now called my vision room. The wall contains my personal mission statement and quotes or phrases that encourages me to focus on living for God. One of the quotes on my vision wall says, "Your life is your message to the world. Make sure it's inspiring." In order to inspire others, we have to be inspired first. My vision wall is one way I receive inspiration. My number one source is God. Our life is to be a light as we walk this earthly journey. We are to follow God's principles of loving and serving others. As followers of God, our presence on earth is to influence and make a positive difference in the lives of others and to grow as individuals. While we are not necessarily seeking a leadership position, we may find our actions of loving and giving to others puts us in a leadership role. Robert Greenleaf came to the idea of the servant as leader from reading Herman Hesse's book, Journey to the East. Here are some of Mr. Greenleaf's comments about the book. The book is about a mythical journey of a band of men, with the central figure of the story being Leo. He accompanies the party as the servant who does their menial chores, but who also sustains them with his spirit and his song. Leo is a person of extraordinary presence. All goes well until he disappears. Then the group falls into disarray, and the journey is abandoned. They cannot make it without the servant Leo. The narrator, one of the party, after some years of wandering, finds Leo and is taken to the order that had sponsored the journey to the east. There he discovers that Leo, whom he had known as a servant, was in fact the head of the order. He was its guiding spirit and great and noble leader. This story makes a very true point. It clearly emphasizes that the great leader is seen as a servant first, and that simple fact is key to his greatness. Leo was actually the leader all the time, but he was servant first because that was who he was deep inside. Leadership was bestowed upon Leo, who was by nature a servant. This leadership position was something given or assumed that could be taken away. His servant nature was the real man, not bestowed, not assumed, and not to be taken away. He was servant first. Leadership is bestowed on a person who is by nature a true servant. People love to follow leaders who have a servant's heart. Here are 10 of the most common characteristics of servant leaders. After I list these characteristics, I'll talk about each one. Number 1, they are accountable for their actions. 2, they are good listeners. 3, they are trustworthy. 4, they are humble. 5, they are self-aware. 6, they are empathetic. 7, they have foresight. 8, they have a vision and inspire vision in others. Well, I'm going to repeat each one of these again. I can, so would that be okay? Okay. Let's see. Number 9, they are healers. And number 10, they are good stewards. Each of these traits could be a seminar on its own. So number 1, accountability. Accountability is an acceptance of responsibility for honest and ethical conduct toward others. Biblical accountability begins with taking responsibility for one's own actions and making a conscious choice of allowing God and others to help in accomplishing what is right. Josh McDowell talks about this in his book, How to Be a Hero to Your Kids. I read this book when my children were young, and it had a great impact on my parenting. I've kept the book all these years, and I read it again before preparing this presentation. I was once again impressed by the information. Josh tells how he made himself accountable to his wife and kids. He asked his wife to hold him accountable as a husband and father, to tell him if he wasn't spending enough time with her and the kids or was not meeting their needs. She agreed reluctantly, concerned that it could hurt his feelings. He told her that even if he got defensive, he wanted to hear the truth. When each of his kids reached the age of 7, he wrote them a note, told them he loved them, and he wanted to be the best dad he could be to them. He asked them to tell him if they thought he wasn't being fair, loving, or considerate of them. By doing this, his wife and kids became his counselors. Here is one of his examples. Josh and his son Sean were walking down the street when a man stopped to talk to Josh. Something the man said irritated Josh, and he was rather short with the man. As the man walked away, Sean remarked, "Dad, you were very short with that man. You didn't talk to him very nicely." Josh said, "I felt like dying right there on the street." They ran after the man, and when they caught up with him, Josh stopped him. With his son standing right beside him, he apologized for his rude behavior. Josh says sometimes the critiques his family gives him stings, and he gets defensive. But when he does, they clam up, and there goes his greatest source of insight and help. He mentioned besides having his pride hurt and getting defensive now and then, there are other dangers he finds in being accountable to his family. One example is being criticized by people outside the family. The Christian man is seen as the authority figure and a strong leader for his family. Then how can he let his wife and children challenge him? Josh says, I simply tell my critics, I believe I am a servant leader who is strong enough to say to Dottie, his wife, and his kids, I want you to hold me accountable. If I'm not cutting the mustard in your eyes, let me know. Josh believes a leader is the one who is strong enough to say, help me, I need your help. I want to be all that God wants me to be as a husband and father to my family. The servant leader listens to his family and is always more concerned about relationship than rules. The real secret to authority is a servant's heart. This is a prerequisite to being a servant leader. Here's one definition of having a servant's heart. To not only put others' needs ahead of our own, but to serve with the right motivation, and that's to put God's will first. Rewards, recognition, or even gratitude cannot be the motivation to live out true servanthood the way Yeshua did. To be a servant leader, the one in authority must know what it is to be loved, to have both a sense of security and significance, because he or she is accepted and appreciated, beginning with God's grace. I think it is a courageous act of love to ask your mate and kids to keep you accountable. This is a quote from Simon Sinek. Leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge. So leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge. The second trait is being a good listener. Hearing and listening are not the same. We hear music, the sound of rainfall, and traffic on the road. Listening requires attention, understanding the message that's being relayed, and recollection of what's being said. We can serve people better if we make a deep commitment to listen intently to them and understand what they are saying. To truly listen, I must give you my undivided attention. I need to put my agenda aside, put the phone down, turn the TV off, or close the book. Listening strengthens and deepens relationships. It demonstrates attentiveness, caring, and respect. I'm going to discuss 3 types of listening that are helpful for anyone, but especially someone who wants to be of service to others. Number 1 is active listening. This takes concentration. It demonstrates our interest in the other's views, gains their trust, and enables us to gain a deeper understanding of issues and situations. It includes observing the verbal and nonverbal messages being sent. As a listener, we can paraphrase and summarize to show the speaker they have been heard and that we are paying attention. This also clarifies what they said and allows the speaker to let us know if we haven't understood correctly. The second type is listening to understand the other's point of view. Maybe they are upset with us. Listening does not necessarily mean we agree with what the speaker is saying. We can accept the person and acknowledge what they are saying without accepting their behavior or point of view. Stephen Covey talks about this listening principle and calls it first seek to understand before being understood. First seek to understand before being understood. If we are willing to listen to another person until they are satisfied that we really understand their position, then after they feel heard, they are more likely to listen to our point of view. A good listener will keep the conversation focused on the topic of discussion and use the 80-20 rule, 80% listening and 20% talking. Charles Stanley recounted a family meeting in a tape series called How to Keep Your Kids on Your Team, which I heard when my kids were young as well. This was also information that affected how I raised my kids. Charles Stanley opened up the opportunity for his family to say whatever they wanted to tell him without defending himself. I thought that was a great example and took courage on his part. As a well-known minister, he humbled himself to ask and listen to what his family had to say. The third type of listening is therapeutic listening. This can be allowing a friend, a colleague, or family member to discuss their problems. It involves using supportive, nonverbal cues such as nodding, maintaining eye contact, in addition to empathizing with their experiences. There is something very healing about being allowed to talk without interruption and feel we have been heard. It validates us as a person and lets us know we matter to someone else. The following is a story about listening by Shirley Batchelder. She credits her success as the former CEO of Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen in her book, Dare to Serve: How to Drive Superior Results by Serving Others. She led a 2017 top 10 servant leadership list in Inc., the world's 10 top CEOs. Batchelder told Business Insider, quote, "The biggest distinction of a leader who serves others versus themselves is the ability to listen. When you listen, you hear people's objections, their anxieties and fears, and you also hear the solutions. The greatest benefit is superior performance." Batchelder says servant leadership is what helped her achieve a turnaround for Popeyes, where the stock quadrupled while she was the CEO. In 2017, she departed when it was sold to Burger King Owner Restaurant Brands International for $1.8 billion. So number 3 of the characteristics of being a servant leader is being trustworthy. Number 3 is trustworthy. Servant leaders act with integrity. They are honest. The full meaning of the word integrity means whole or undivided. Servant leaders act the same outside the office, home, or church as they do inside those places. Albert Einstein once said, "I speak to everyone the same, whether he's a garbage man or the president of the university." By doing this, he demonstrated genuine respect for all people. Respect defines the underlying attitude of a servant leader. Another aspect of being trustworthy is keeping your word, doing what you say you will do. It also means keeping information confidential when someone shares personal details about something. It is not to be repeated to a third party. When you make a commitment, people know it will be done, if at all possible. There are times we will make mistakes because we are human. When we realize it, we own up to the mistake and correct it. We make amends to the people affected by it. I'm going to briefly connect this to a biblical principle called restitution. Restitution. It's found in both Old and New Testaments. One example is Exodus 22:5. Exodus 22:5. When a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over, or lets his beast loose, and it feeds in another man's field, he makes restitution from the best in his own field and in his own vineyard. In the New Testament, the account of Zacchaeus in Luke 19, verses 1 through 10, Zacchaeus in Luke 19, 1 through 10 is an example. I'm only going to read 19, verse 8. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, "Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold." In order to heal relationships we have damaged, we must make restitution. We do what it takes to restore whatever it takes to make that relationship right again. In some cases, we go the extra mile, beyond just making it right, and we bless the person beyond what we owe them. Now back to trust. Trust between individuals creates psychological safety. An example would be between a parent and a child. The child should not be afraid that something he says or does will make his parents stop loving him. He knows he will be disciplined for bad behavior, but he feels secure in their love. Within a safe space of trust, people can be loved and validated as valuable. This boosts self-confidence and encourages more trust and vulnerability. Being vulnerable means being in a position where other people can hurt us. It often means expressing the sides of ourselves where we have the least confidence and allowing others to respond to those weaknesses. Trust facilitates meaningful connections and is the backbone of healthy, happy relationships of all kinds. When we know a person respects, loves, and cares about us, it is much easier to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is what fosters authentic, close connections with each experience that provides a person with each experience that proves a person's trustworthiness. Others feel more comfortable and safe. Now for the characteristic number 4 of servant leadership is humility. Humility is the ability to view oneself accurately as an individual with talents as well as flaws, while avoiding arrogance or low self-esteem. Humility should not be confused with a lack of confidence or insecurity. Quite the contrary, confidence and security are often displayed most authentically through humility. Humility binds leaders and followers together. It inspires followers to trust leaders. Servant leaders do not see themselves as better or above those who follow them. The servant leader is first among equals. Great loyalty comes when followers feel the leader is one of us. C.S. Lewis stated, "Humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less." So humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. Servant leadership emphasizes that the responsibility of a leader is to increase the ownership, autonomy, and responsibility of followers, to encourage them to think for themselves and to try out their own ideas. Here's an example for us. Ask how we can help our employees, our mate, or our kids to do their jobs better. Then listen. The effect of this approach can be very powerful. So number 5 on my list is self-awareness. Some sources say that 99% of people believe they are self-aware. Unfortunately, only 10 to 15% actually are. Harvard Business Review lists the 2 main types of self-awareness, internal and external. Internal self-awareness includes knowing our thoughts, our feelings, our strengths, our weaknesses, our values, or core values, priorities, passions, and desires. Reflection and introspection help us to see ourselves more clearly and objectively. We understand how we affect the environment and those around us. External self-awareness has more to do with being aware of other people and how they see us and our strengths and weaknesses, values, passions, and aspirations. If our external self-awareness is high, we are better at seeing other people's perspective and showing empathy. If we can manage our own emotions, we are more likely to exert a more positive impact on the emotional vibe of a family, a work situation, or social encounter. People who are self-aware do not sell themselves short, but also do not have an overinflated value of themselves or view of themselves. They want honest feedback on how they are coming across and how they are doing. They have confidence in knowing their strengths and weaknesses. They do not mind sharing the spotlight with others. To become more self-aware, we need to learn to be more comfortable in our own company, to be open to see the positives and negatives about ourselves. Take time to reflect on who we are. Do we have the courage to ask those we are close to and who love us the most to give us honest feedback on how we come across? We could start with something small like, do I interrupt you when we are talking? If we could ask for feedback and be willing to listen to the response, I think it would help us greatly with our personal growth. Here are a couple examples I've asked myself to become more self-aware. What is it really like for those who interact with me? How would I feel having someone treat me the way I treat those I am closest to? I like this quote from Veronica Tugaluva. To know yourself, you must sacrifice the illusion that you already do. To know yourself, you must sacrifice the illusion that you already do. Number 6, servant leadership. Servant leaders show empathy. So what is empathy? That's easy to confuse with sympathy, at least for me. Empathy is the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather than our own. So, what is the difference between empathy and sympathy? I like Brené Brown's explanation of the difference. She defines sympathy as seeing someone in a deep hole, but remaining on higher ground and talking to them from above. The sympathetic person may also try to put a silver lining on the other person's situation instead of acknowledging the person's pain. Conversely, empathy is feeling with the person. It's climbing down in the hole to sit beside them, becoming vulnerable, to sincerely connect with them. This reminds me of the verse in Romans 12:15. Romans 12:15. Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. The empathetic person will recognize the person's struggles without minimizing it. By learning to empathize with those around us, we build stronger relationships and trust. Psychologists Daniel Goleman and Paul Ekman have identified 3 components of empathy. They are cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. Cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. So here are brief descriptions of the 3 components. Cognitive is simply knowing how the other person feels and what they may be thinking. An example, a friend calls and tells you she lost her job. You know she is likely to be feeling sad and anxious. She relies on her income to pay her bills. Having only cognitive empathy keeps us at a distance from our friend. To truly connect with her, we need to share her feelings. This is where emotional empathy comes in. So number 2, emotional empathy is when you feel physically along with the other person, as though the emotions were contagious. This kind of empathy can also extend to physical sensations, which is why we may cringe when someone else stubs their toe. With the friend who lost her job, we would look inwards to identify a situation we were similarly anxious about the future. The situation may not be identical, but what's important is that the emotions resulting from the situation are the same. After we have successfully understood what our friend is feeling and put ourselves in a similar emotional space, now what? We move to number 3, compassionate empathy. With this kind of empathy, we not only understand a person's predicament and feel with them, but we are spontaneously moved to help if needed. It is the balance between cognitive and emotional empathy that enables us to act without being overcome with feelings or jumping straight into a problem-solving process. In 2016, a study was done from Massachusetts General Hospital, and they found empathy to be the distinguishing factor in medical care satisfaction. Previous studies have shown that empathy can also affect healthcare outcomes and can reduce the length of hospital stays. I'm going to end this section on empathy with a quote from Rochelle Goodrich. "Walk with me a while, my friend, you in my shoes and I in yours, and then let's talk. Walk with me for a while, my friend, in my shoes, you in my shoes, and I in your shoes, and then let's talk." Number 7 in my servant leader list is foresight. Foresight is a characteristic that enables a servant leader to understand the lessons from the past, the realities of the present, and the likely consequences of decisions for the future. Foresight is recognized as a universally effective leadership attribute. Without developing this characteristic, the possibility of making unnecessary errors increase, resulting in the future of individuals, organizations, and even whole societies being negatively affected. Decisions aren't foolproof, and it will take time, courage, and encouragement to develop foresight. To gain foresight, it is helpful to seek counsel from others, interact with people different from us in age, race, and worldview. With their diverse perspectives, they might see something coming that we've missed. Read about the subject relevant to the decision. It's important to listen to our intuition as we think about our choices. Pray for guidance and what to do next. Only God knows what tomorrow holds. Characteristic number 8, the servant leader has a vision of where the group is headed. He or she has the ability to inspire vision in others. John 14:12. John 14:12. "Verily, verily, I, Yeshua, say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go to the Father." What a vision he had for those of us who follow him. We can develop a vision or mission statement as an individual, a family, a church, or a company. The mission statement describes the individual or group's purpose, what goal is being worked toward, and what is to be achieved. A personal mission statement can be a 1 or 2 sentence motto that shows how we define ourselves as a person or a team member. It identifies and presents why this is important to us. Or the mission statement can be a paragraph that encapsulates everything we would like to be, do, and have in our life. It defines what success and excellence looks like to us. I mentioned earlier how I came to have a vision wall. It holds quotes, sayings, and photos of what I want to become. I have been aware of mission statements for a very long time through Stephen Covey's writings and presentations. I never thought of my vision wall of quotes as my mission statement until I was preparing this presentation. In the center of the wall, I have what I would now call my mission statement. Be light and love. Each capital letter is 8.5 by 11 inches. It is the focal point of my vision wall. The word be is in red for being passionate about who I want to be. Light is in yellow. I want to reflect the light of God. Each letter in love is a different color because I love God, people, and things in different ways. The entire vision wall reminds me of my mission every day. Helen Keller said, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight with no vision." The only thing worse than being blind is having sight with no vision. Proverbs 29:18, Part A. Proverbs 29:18, Part A reminds us, where there is no vision, the people perish. We need to know where we are going. A leader and those who follow him must know where they are headed. Number 9, the servant leader as a healer. Servant leader as a healer. This characteristic relates to the emotional health and wholeness of people and involves supporting them physically, mentally, and spiritually. Healing leaders empower their teams by providing opportunities for everyone to have a voice, giving credit where it is due, or making it possible for people to share their ideas more widely. That's another very positive about this feast site. Everyone can be included, and especially the youth. So I really like that principle that's being done here. To be a healer in this capacity is to be an expert in the miracle of being careful with another's pain. It is a willingness to reach out and be supportive of those who are hurting. Leaders bear their own wounds and scars. To help people heal, they need to attend to their own need for healing first. Healing involves being able to resolve issues and conflicts. The healing of relationships is a powerful force for transformation. To authentically care about others is vital. A quote from Maya Angelou says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Number 10, the last characteristic is stewardship. Stewards engage others through relationship building, personal influence, teamwork, communication, and role modeling. They pay active attention to the overall health and well-being of those they care for. It can be a family, a church, a group, team members in a job, etc. The servant leader is in a position to serve those under his or her influence. At an individual level, stewardship focuses on promoting the development and well-being of each person in the family or group. These individuals are helped to achieve their goals. A servant leader sees the people in the group not as they are today, but their potential. The individuals are more important than the task. Stewards lead by example, by demonstrating the values and behaviors they want. You may have heard the quote, "Be the change you want to see in others or you want to see in the world." Servant leaders have the confidence to stand up to people when they act in ways that doesn't align with good values and principles. They use persuasion rather than authority to encourage people to action. If persuasion is used correctly, it does not damage relationships or take advantage of others. Servant leaders are willing to hear ideas and input from others and to actively seek feedback. They encourage people to take responsibility for their work and remind them how what they do contributes to the success and overall objectives for everyone involved. Here are 3 questions to evaluate the success of stewardship. Number 1, are those being served growing as persons? Number 2, are they becoming healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous? Number 3, are they more likely themselves to become servants? Servant leadership is a win-win situation. I really like this next quote by Sheryl Sandberg. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. So leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. There's overlap in all 10 characteristics. One attribute builds on others. There are many Bible verses that encourage us to incorporate these traits in our lives. They are all based on love and following Yeshua's example. I think the following verses are a good foundation for having a servant's heart, and should the situation arise of becoming a servant leader. Matthew 22, 37 through 40. Matthew 22, 37 through 40. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. I hope I have presented enough information from the biblical accounts and other examples to show we are to be servants. And because of that, we can find ourselves in the position of servant leaders, even if we don't feel like a leader and don't think people look to us as leaders. Here's a quote from Martin Luther King. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. I'm going to read Matthew 5:14 again. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Galatians 5:13. Galatians 5:13. For you were called to freedom, brethren. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love be servants of one another. 1 Peter 4:10. 1 Peter 4:10. As each has received a gift, employ it for one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Mark 9:35. Mark 9:35. And he, Yeshua, sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. I read an article from Colorado Christian University titled Mastering Servant Leadership, Inspired by Jesus' Example. I'm going to share part of the article with you. Quote, Yeshua is the ultimate example of a servant leader, and his life and teaching show us how important it is to lead with love, compassion, and a servant's heart. Christians are called to follow Yeshua's example and become servant leaders in our spheres of influence. We can become great leaders by showing compassion, empowering others, and creating a culture of respect and collaboration. Leading with love and humility for God's glory makes a positive difference. End quote. Yeshua is our personal servant leader. He gave the ultimate sacrifice when he came to show us the way to God, loved us unconditionally, gave us a vision to work toward. His influence and support continue without being present in human form. John 14:12 through 13. John 14:12 and 13. Verily, very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. We have a mission to become like our servant leader, Yeshua, to be the light of the world, spreading the love of God. So now I can open it up for any comments. Darla over here.
just want to say, first I apologize coming in late, but I was working on some stuff for later, but it's amazing that you're talking about the servant, because that's what we're trying to do here. You know, from the very beginning, Mike's always said we're here to wash each other's feet. And I think it's made a difference from coming up through, well, I didn't grow up in it. I came into a corporate church, won't say where, and it's like you had this person with this title, this person with this title, this person with this title, and they were the ones doing everything. And you know, if it's in your heart and your desire to, even if it's just cooking biscuits and gravy or just whatever it is doing, you want to be a part of it. And that makes us feel like we're all a part of the body of Christ. Because that's what he did. He came, he served. His service allowed us to be where we are today, to be able to be at one with God when the kingdom comes. We got to keep fighting that fight and keep serving, keep striving, and just, you know, it's a blessing to be able to do this for anyone. You know, and it makes us feel the warm fuzzies inside, being able to do that, because it's an expression of love. It's an action. So I'm grateful that you gave us today. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dave? Oh.
My blind side then. So, great presentation talk. I think the one thing that I would add that I thought was great, it's kind of a combination of these things, is to have good judgment, and exercise good judgment as a leader. A lot of times, when you're a leader, you're presented with thorny issues or conflict, and it's like the application of all these 10 characteristics in the right way. And also kind of showing like a fairness and a balance to it all. It's how it's applied is really what makes a great leader a leader. So it's kind of just, like I said, all those things together.
Anyone else?
Somebody thoughts back there?
I just have a question. Could you repeat the quote by Martin Luther King? I was jotting that down, but I just want to make sure I got it. Everyone can be great.
Because everyone can serve.
Because everyone can serve.
Okay, so everyone can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love.
Thank you.
Well, I'm planning to begin homeschooling my 5-year-old great-granddaughter. And what I have learned through my research is that you don't have to have a college degree to teach a child. You just have to have a heart full of love for the child and let them know it. And they will listen to you and they will learn. So I thought that is a great thing to know as we set out to begin this child's education, that all we have to do is really love her and let her know that we do. And we're willing to teach her and help her in any way we can. I want to say I really appreciate your seminar today. And I appreciate being here at this feast site and all the servant leaders that we have around us. And you just adequately described everything you said. My pastor, Mr. Kevin Kennedy, I thought about him all the way through because he matches everything you said. He is there for us. And we just truly love him, and he lets us know that he loves us. Every Sabbath when we show up, we get a big hug. and every sermon, it's interactive. He asks us questions because he's a real teacher, and he lets us know that he loves us. And I just want to appreciate all the servants here. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here and help because it makes me feel like I'm a part of of God and what He's doing here. And I just appreciate the opportunities that we have here to learn to love others.
Yes.
Thank you, Shirley.
I'll just add real quick, I'll make a comment at the end, but about Mr. Kevin Kennedy, because there's some folks here that weren't here opening night when I give a little history how he got started here. But her pastor, Kevin Kennedy, who's a minister in the United Church of God, he is the catalyst, the reason this feast site even exists. Because after the pandemic and we were looking where else to have a site, the corporate groups that we were part of went to Hot Springs and they wanted to go back to a more traditional setting. And Kevin Kennedy called me. And he had been to our feast site here and he heard what was happening. And he said, and I'm not part of the United Church of God. And he said, Michael, he said, you have to do something to keep Kentucky going. Because if you don't, that spirit that you guys have been working for these last 4 years of helping each other become a family, be a body, and he says that spirit's going to die. And that was the kick in the rear end for me to do something because I really didn't want to be in charge of anything. Bernard, did you get Priscilla?
Yeah, Priscilla.
I also want to say, my mother was a member of, I never was. Our little group also likes to promote each individual being active in their own community, different service groups, be it fundraisers for the homeless or the dog shelter, or as long as it doesn't conflict with our Sabbath and our beliefs, we should be out there helping. If they're building a ramp for somebody, we shouldn't be afraid to be out there amongst other groups in our community. And because when we're not, we're kind of out of touch. And we can't put our touch on anybody unless we're out there. And I think years ago that was not promoted. And I think that was a lot of missed opportunities and blessings on us, for us, and on them.
Yeah, that's
Amen, Priscilla. Amen.
yeah. That's being a light, and that's what we need to do. Any other questions or comments?
Sarah's got one back there.
I too came out of something else, and here comes the wine.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
I feel that the blessings that we're learning from servant leadership were somewhat stifled because, the command surrounding servant leadership is to produce good fruits. And to expound on what Ms. Darla said, those of us wanting to serve and starting to bear those fruits back in a different history, those fruits of the Spirit started budding on us, and the atmosphere would literally cause leadership to come and clip those little buds off and discard them. So it's such a blessing to be able to start producing those fruits and have them just, fall and be harvested within our group and within our communities. So all centering around all of your concepts and servant leadership. And I thank you so very, very much for everything you've presented. It was amazing.
Thank you. Praise God.
Anyone else? Yeah, thank you so much,
Okay,
Shirley.
thank you.
I so sincerely appreciate it.